This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
One kidnapped Nigerian student dies as the military rescues 7 people from abductors. Uganda imposes a total lockdown in the latest measures to stop rising COVID-19 infections. And Ibrahim Raisi elected Iran's new president after landslide victory. Hello and welcome to Africa Live, only on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua in Nairobi. Also coming up, in sports, South African long jumper Luvo Manyonga handed 4-year ban for anti-doping rule violations. We begin in Nigeria with an update on the plight of at least 80 students kidnapped from Kebbi State. The army says one of the kidnapped students has died. The female student was found dead as troops tracked the kidnappers. The army spokesperson Onyema Nwachukwu added that 5 students and 2 teachers have been freed. They were rescued after troops exchanged gunfire with the abductors.
In the last few hours, we've come across the kidnappers. They came to our blocking point, and we've engaged them early hours of this morning. At that point, they have abandoned 5 of the students and 1 of the teachers. Unfortunately, I think we've lost one of the students.
I want to raise a song to praise my God for keeping us alive and also for giving me the courage to withstand whatever is going on, because my husband is one of the kidnappers that they went with.
Well, earlier we talked to our correspondent Phil Ihaza. He gave us the latest updates from Abuja.
What we know is that at least 7 of them have been rescued, including 2 teachers. We also know that the military, of course with close air support from the Nigerian Air Force, were able to trail the criminals in the bush as they escorted the abducted students and teachers to a very remote location. They were in 2 groups, and one other group was also escorting some herd of cattle, but the military were able to engage in a gun battle, and they were able to rescue 7 of the abductees and also rescue the cattle, which is understandably so, because they would have abandoned the cattle to try to continue to run with the students. But the military say they are still in hot pursuit of these criminals. We know that the female student who died, so far what we know is that she died out of exhaustion, after being rescued. But the remaining of these released students or rescued abductees are currently in a medical facility in Kebbi State, and they are receiving treatment. And also the military say they are still in pursuit of the criminals to try to recover or rescue the remaining abducted students and teachers.
Staying in West Africa, Guinea has declared the end of its latest Ebola outbreak. The country's Ministry of Health and the WHO made the announcement on Saturday. Starting in February, the outbreak had infected 16 people and killed 12. According to WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus, Guinea was able to use lessons from the 2014 to 2016 outbreak to curb the spread of the virus. The WHO also joined efforts to stop the latest outbreak by shipping around 24,000 Ebola vaccine doses. The Ethiopian Red Cross Society has received a donation of China's Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccines. The donation was sent by the Chinese Red Cross Society. Ethiopia's State Minister for Health was among those on hand to receive the shipment. Ethiopia received its first donation of Sinopharm vaccines from the Chinese government in March. China's ambassador to Ethiopia, Zhao Zhiyuan, noted that the latest donation was part of efforts to help Ethiopia's fight against COVID-19.
As a comprehensive strategic cooperative partner of Ethiopia, China will continue its support within its capacity to Ethiopia's anti-pandemic efforts and play an active role as Ethiopia undertakes to boost the economy and improve the people's lives.
We are very much thankful for the Red Cross to work with the government of China, Red Cross of China, to bring this donation to Ethiopia. Thank you very much for that. I hope our collaboration and our engagement with the Embassy of China, the government of China and the Chinese people will continue in the future. And thank you very much, China, for supporting Ethiopia, not only in COVID, but also in many other developmental and economic issues.
Now, the World Health Organization's Africa Regional Office has warned of a surge in COVID-19 cases across the continent. New data from the WHO indicates more than 120,000 cases were recorded in the month of June alone. CGTN's Daniel Arapmoy reports.
The World Health Organization says Africa's COVID-19 cases are rising by over 20% every week. Current statistics indicate that the DRC, Namibia and Uganda have passed their second wave peaks.
We've now surpassed 5 million COVID-19 cases in Africa, and 136,000 people sadly have died. After 4 weeks of consecutive increases, Africa's third wave is surging upward and accelerating fast. New cases continent-wide are up by nearly 30% in the past week, and deaths are up by 15%.
Africa is now reportedly in the midst of a full-blown third wave.
At the continental level, we're seeing a rise in cases similar to the first wave peak in July 2020 and about 50% of the second wave peak in January 2021. 5 countries account for 76% of the new cases. South Africa with 43%, followed by Tunisia, Zambia, Uganda and Namibia.
The worrying trajectory of surging cases has now forced many countries to act. WHO says it's supporting countries to review and implement plans to tackle the resurgence of cases down to the district and local levels. 19 million easy-to-use antigen detection rapid diagnostic tests are being shipped to 39 African countries. The shipment is expected to aid the expansion of access to COVID-19 tests. WHO is also working with countries to ship samples for sequencing to better understand where and to what degree variants are circulating in specific contexts. So far, the Delta variant has been reported in 14 African countries. On a positive note, Africa's vaccine rollout is reportedly picking up speed, with over 5 million doses administered in the past 5 days. Almost 12 million people are now fully vaccinated, but this is still less than 1% of Africa's population. According to the World Health Organization, the rise in cases and death is a wake-up call for countries to scale up vaccination in order to reach priority groups and respond to community concerns. Daniel Arapmoy, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
And staying in East Africa, Uganda has entered a strict 6-week lockdown in order to try and prevent the continued surge in COVID-19 infections. The spike in cases has overwhelmed the country's healthcare system, with many hospitals running out of medical supplies. Uganda has registered more than 70,000 cases and over 650 deaths, according to latest figures from the Health Ministry. CGTN's Michael Baleke has more.
In a televised address to the nation, the Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni banned public and private transport. Only emergency vehicles and essential workers are allowed to move. Schools, colleges, worship places, entertainment and sports events will remain closed for the next 42 days.
These are urgent and temporary but extraordinary measures which we as the nation must jointly and fully embrace to protect and preserve our lives, our ways of life, the way we live and our future.
More than 1,000 patients are admitted to different health centers across the country, but many are scattered in private health facilities while other cases are being managed at home. Some Ugandans are not happy with the lockdown.
We have no food at home. We have loans. The landlords need their money. They will not listen to excuses. They would have allowed us to go to the village to pick some food. We are restless. This is not right.
The disease will not be eliminated today. They should allow people to move because even without cars, we are moving and the privileged are driving their vehicles freely. It's a waste of time.
Health officials say the country has been registering more than 1,000 cases daily. Many of these are severe and critical. Uganda is entering a second major lockdown, and doctors say while the measures are important to slow down the spread of COVID-19 infections, staying home has come with increased stress, anxiety, and depression. Health professionals say since the onset of COVID-19 in the country, several health centers are reporting a rise in the number of patients seeking treatment for mental health issues.
If you have not heard from a person for 2 days and used to talk every day or 3 days, check on your people. But if you stay alone and there's no one checking on you, reach out to someone. It could be anyone, it could be a friend. Respond to a status. Ask for help. Very many people are not asking for this help because they fear the social stigma that they will face after they've declared that, you know what? In fact, most people are telling us after they're almost on their journey to recovery.
President Museveni says the government is also negotiating with partners like China to source for additional doses of COVID-19 vaccines. He believes when more people get vaccinated, fewer numbers will require hospitalization. Michael Baleke, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
You're watching Africa Live on CGTN. Here's what's coming up after this short break. Ebrahim Raisi elected Iran's new president after a landslide victory.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Now, further afield, Ebrahim Raisi has been elected Iran's next president. Election officials say he won with nearly 18 million votes. That's about 62% of the ballots. His rival candidates have conceded defeat. Several world leaders, including the Russian president and the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, have congratulated Raisi. The 60-year-old conservative cleric will take over from Hassan Rouhani at a critical time as the country seeks to salvage a tattered nuclear deal and get its economy moving again. Ehsan Kevani reports from Tehran.
Contrary to previous presidential elections like in 1997, 2005, 2009, and 2017, where main confrontation was between leftist reformists and conservatives, in this year's presidential elections, there was no influential reformist figure among the candidates. After the country's Constitutional Guardian Council disqualified the reformists, everybody knew that Raisi would be the next president. Now, he is the president with slightly less than 18 million votes, which is about 62% of the total votes. 3.7 million ballots were announced as spoiled votes, which could reflect the voters who were not happy with the candidates. Many who had voted for presidents like Khatami and Rouhani did not vote this year because of frustration and not seeing improvement in economy. Now, apart from promises to tackle corruption and embezzlement, Raisi says he would boost the economy and manufacturing sector. He says he would use the entire potential, domestic potential to enhance the industry in order to pursue a policy of refraining from relying on oil export. He says within a year, he would increase the economic growth to 5%. In 2 years' time, he would secure the country's foreign currency needs through non-petroleum export. And finally, he would double non-petroleum export at the end of his 4-year term. Previous presidents had made similar claims, but in practice, U.S. sanctions and difficulties in accessing international banking systems prevented them from fulfilling their promises.
Well, Ebrahim Raisi had been long expected to win after being endorsed by the country's supreme leader. The president-elect is a hardline cleric and head of Iran's judiciary. He belongs to an ultra-conservative camp that has a deep mistrust of the United States. The 60-year-old ran in the 2017 election, but lost to the current Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Raisi has been a harsh critic of Rouhani since the 2015 nuclear deal started to unravel. Raisi is also under American sanctions for his alleged involvement in the execution of political prisoners decades ago, something Iran has never acknowledged. Moving on, China says it has met its goal of eradicating extreme poverty by the end of 2020. Mohammed Azam, who has visited China numerous times in his capacity as a board member of the International Association for Management of Technology, spoke with Yasser Hakim in Cairo about the significance of China's achievement.
We are in front of a unique achievement in the last 40 years by alleviating poverty to more than 800 million people. This huge challenge was based on the concept of creating jobs through establishing large institutions, then employment through medium companies and small companies that are all linked together in what was called traded clusters. They have formed a whole economic system with each segment complementing the other and creating opportunities that improve the economy and hence living conditions and eradicating poverty. It's a lesson that should be studied worldwide.
What does it mean to eradicate absolute poverty and become a well-off society?
Elevating people out of poverty achieves social security, which means the society is stronger and able to develop more easily. You know that poverty is a threat to peace in any community, and therefore eradicating it is important for the economic and social development of the nation, as well as being competitive globally.
What are the lessons of the Chinese experience that could be learned from Africa?
It is a very important point. Generally, we have to look at the Chinese experience and study it well. We have to benefit from it. Looking at it, China has managed to build a pyramid of competition from the base, which is investment in technology, in education, and updated tech production such as the China 2025 plan to possess the highest developed technology. With time, it has led to the manufacturing of high-quality products to cover local demand, then increase its exports. This reflected on the welfare of the community and the welfare of the citizen. Developing nations, African countries, especially Egypt, have to study this experience closely and adopt what fits to every country.
How can China work with Africa to eradicate poverty in Africa and also help the global efforts?
They have to learn to benefit from the transfer of technology from China and establish more bilateral investments to learn from Chinese experts and technology. Egypt, for instance, is a partner in Chinese initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative and is a founding member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Just as China created its own China model, every country has to formulate its own model inspired by the China example and adopt from China what is suitable to its own conditions and circumstances, but learning from China will reduce the time and effort for eradicating poverty and become a competitive nation.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Right, and here's what's coming up on Africa Live Sports. South African long jumper Luvo Manyonga handed 4-year ban for anti-doping rule violation.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome to the sport. Now, South Africa's Luvo Manyonga has been banned for 4 years for failing to meet the whereabouts criteria set out by the Athletics Integrity Unit. The long jump star can appeal the sentence at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, but it remains to be seen if the former world champion will follow through. CGTN's CS du Plessis reports.
The curtain appears to be coming down on Luvo Manyonga's checkered athletics career. The 2016 Olympic silver medalist has been banned for a second time. In 2012, he was suspended for 18 months for testing positive for crystal meth, and now following a series of missed drug tests dating back to November 2019, he has received a 4-year sanction.
It doesn't seem like he was actually bothered. You know, if you were bothered by the process, if you were concerned about your own future, then you would take an effort to make sure that at least kind of get them to reduce the term.
His former coach Neil Cornelius, who coached Manyonga to Olympic silver, is saddened by the developments and feels that the former world champion might never realize his true potential despite having all the talent in the world.
You know, one thing that Luvo always stood out was that guy's confidence. Honestly, those guys' confidence. He would show up to a meeting unprepared, and you would know he would jump well. You would know he would qualify. He would know it as well. It's just from his confidence. There was nothing that could hold him back. He would have the worst day, the worst week, and that wouldn't impact him physically at all.
How many people can say that? How people can say that, you know, despite where they came from, they could still kind of make it to that level. You know, so in terms of that, you need to kind of tip your hat to the guy. It's just such a pity that he didn't kind of see it himself, that he needs to make sure that he kind of keep to the straight and narrow.
The 30-year-old can appeal the sanction at CAS, but it is highly unlikely that despite all the efforts of the Athletics Integrity Unit to contact him and his legal team, that the continent's former #1 jumper will attempt to appeal.
It sounds like he's just gone absolutely missing. You know, he's absolutely missing in action, and you know, so how do you go to an appeal and say, listen, I made no effort, so now why would you now make an effort all of a sudden? So I just can't see that happening, unfortunately.
It is a pity to see such a talented athlete suffer such a spectacular fall from grace. His afflictions have contributed to his downfall once again, but it remains unclear why he didn't even bother to respond or contest the sanction. It's clear the long jump event at the Olympics will be robbed of a superstar who it appears has succumbed to his demons that have haunted him his entire career. CS du Plessis, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Hungary pulled off a satisfying result